So good evening, church. Again, my name is Matthew Mayer. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday evening. We're excited to have our first State of His Church meeting and a lot of really awesome things to report on, but we thought it wise before reporting on some of the details of the church that we would align our church and ministry with Psalm 105, verses 1 and 2. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the peoples. Verse 2, sing to him, sing psalms to him, talk of all his wondrous works. So we wanted to provide a time where you, some of you, can identify yourselves in testimony. And there have been so many people to choose from, like literally the impact that you have had on the church. And I have the privilege of hearing a lot of those testimonies and the impact the church has had on you. I mean, every time I hear a testimony, I wish I can get on stage and report of his wondrous works. So we thought it wise that you hear from those that sit in the seats with you every single Sunday and midweek service. So I have the honor of introducing our first two, a couple, married couple, and they're going to report on what the Lord laid on her heart. So if you can join me as we welcome to the stage E.C. and Alicia Reeves. It's just like, it's gonna poke you in the face if I don't move it.
Good evening. We were asked to give a 5-minute testimony of how we came from Texas to Ocean City and Landmark last year. Many of you have heard the long version. I shortened it to one word: God. We both have been walking with the Lord for decades, and our experiences with him have taught us that we can trust his voice and his leading. We can put our trust in him and obey. During the past year, we've encountered many other people who've told us that the Lord moved them to Ocean City to join this church. Our story's not unique. What is unique is that we serve a God who speaks to his own. He's on the throne and in control of every circumstance. He allows us to cooperate in his plan. Our obedience is what he's looking for.
Amen.
Why don't you just elaborate on that story? My wife, she's sweet. But that story that she told, it was God. But the backstory to that was she had visited here to see her sister. And during that exchange, her sister was interested in going to a church, so my wife brought her here to Landmark. She went up on the 11th Street Pavilion to pray one day, and she felt that God was calling us back to New Jersey here. And she said to the friend that she had been talking with, there is no way my husband will leave Texas, because I wouldn't even come back for vacation. However, while she was gone, for 6 months, I had discovered Matt Mayer on YouTube. And I remember Matt when he was in the 6th grade. And I say this in love. Matt was a lovable punk. Anyhow, when I listened to him preach, I knew God got a hold of him. And I would listen to 3 and 4 hours a day to those things. While Alicia was away, my heart began to soften. And when I picked her up at the airport, I said, I believe God's calling us back to New Jersey. She like, what? And I said, yeah. She said, where? I said, Ocean City. And so here we are. But this is what I really want to share with you. 46 years ago, I had a moment when I knew I was going to hell, and I cried out to Jesus to save me. He sent someone to disciple me. I purchased the Bible and I started to read it. I heard that Jesus Christ said, repent and believe, so I did. I joined a small church and they discipled me. I told the pastor I wanted to be baptized. So I followed Jesus into the waters of baptism as the scriptures command. God had begun a good work in me. And through the years, the Holy Spirit has developed within me a love for God, His Word, and people. Then God brought Alicia and me together. So our following and trusting and obeying our Lord Jesus Christ continues. And the long obedience in the same direction has brought us here to Landmark Church. Now this is, if you're taking notes, this is what I want you to note. We know that we became the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus in a moment. But we have come to understand that it takes a lifetime of relationship with Jesus Christ in daily relationship with His saints and among those who are not saints to make us whole. Thank you. At this time, I'm to introduce Tom McKelvey up to, and I'm going off script one more time. I'm making a pitch and a plug for John Shirk's Bible study on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock noon, because the men that were gathered there today had an awesome time and discussion in God's Word, and our brother Tom was the one who facilitated that. So, Tom McKelvey.
My name's Tom McKelvey. I'm husband to Jill, father to Tom, Zach, and Julia, 3 adult children grown. We made our way to Landmark Church back in the fall of 2019. My wife and I were still attending Sicklerville United Methodist Church, and Pastor Matthew Mayer was doing the men's retreat. And I remember going to that men's retreat, and I come from the School of Hard Knocks, blue-collar job in the Ironworkers Union, and I remember this mild-mannered man talking to him before he got up and did his thing, and then him turn into this man who proclaimed the word of God with an instigation, with a conviction that just provoked me. My wife had been actually listening, Pastor Gary Hamrick, Cornerstone Chapel. She actually heard him preach at his church as she was driving home. So there was some history there. But before I can get into what the state of the church is or what it means to me, I have to look at the state of the union. I have to look at my Lord and Savior and the man in the mirror. And my journey takes me 20-some years in the church, believing that I was doing the work of the Lord, serving God in His church, when the fact of the matter is my life was scripted. I was a happy, shiny person walking into the church, but my home was bleak. I was not the husband nor the father that God commanded me to be. I wasn't the example of Jesus Christ that my kids needed to see in my house. And so I realized through serving, and I'm going to get to my point. Hopefully I don't lose you, but I'm going to get to my point about service. There was a ministry here at this church, Proven Men Ministry, so on sexual integrity. And I was encouraged by a brother sitting in these seats right here to lead a group. So I decided, okay, I'm going to lead a group. And I invited some men to my house, and we began to break the word down and see what it means to be a man who loves Jesus and honors his wife with his eyes and maintains that integrity in his heart that Christ calls us to have. It's all he talks about in the Sermon on the Mount is the heart of a man, the heart of a person. And so I realized that going through that heart work in that book study that is founded on the Word of God, that I began to see myself for my true condition, and I was lost. And it wasn't until one day doing the heart work that I came into Psalm 119:18, open my eyes that I may see the wondrous things of your law. And I read that scripture, and I was truly repentant for my sin. And I realized at that moment in time when the Holy Spirit came upon me that I was lost, but now I was found in his word. And so I tell you that story because had I not been in the church, had I not put myself out there. Now, I'm not saying that I did anything, I facilitated anything, or I had anything to do with it, but I just wonder when God started to call me, was this the platform or was this the space that he needed to get a hold of me? And I know everybody's situation's different. And so my wife and I, we plug into the discipleship group, and we break bread, and we share heartfelt things with 6 beautiful couples. We come in and we talk about our families and some of the heartaches and the challenges that we have in the midst of our families and our marriages, and we begin to see the beauty of the church, the people that make up the church. And I get to serve with the young adults and the junior high and the senior high, and people will say, hey, that's the future of the church. And I say, no, that is the church. Those young people who serve, I learn so much from them. And I'm honored to serve with them and the wisdom that I glean from them. And so I'm grateful for that. So now when I look at the state of the church, and I realize that the state of the union, my Lord and Savior, and my heart, I realize that when I come into a space like this, I see similar people who serve for the body, who use their gifts for God's glory. And so, if I could leave you with a word of encouragement or a challenge, I don't know where you're at today. I don't know what you're going through with your family. I don't know the tape that's playing in your mind where maybe you're not serving, but I would challenge you to sacrifice and to push on and to try to serve the church and your Lord and Savior. Thank you.
Great words of encouragement, testimonials that the Lord has done this marvelous work, and he's brought them here, he's brought you here. The church would not be what it is without her people. It's not about who's on the stage. I would never want you to leave any service thinking that because we're on stage, we're super Christians. That's not the church. Each of us play our part. I'll actually be teaching on the importance of service over status this Sunday, so thank you for priming the pump, my brother. I have the honor of introducing at least the elders, the ones who have been called to this body, who are gonna facilitate some of the content tonight. So if they can come up to the stage now, I have Mark Emmond, John Shirk, Norm Johnson, and we will be accompanied by Pastor Terrence Sikoriak. These men have been called, you guys can sit down. They've been called to oversee the fellowship. Not too long ago, I had the honor of teaching the requirements of the church's overseers, bishops, and that standard of being above reproach and blameless is also the standard for the Christian, for each of us. And we're to hold each other accountable, and we are to be responsible for this Christian testimony that the world needs. It's also the same requirements that a deacon is supposed to conduct themselves by. We talked about that this past Sunday. But also, it's a standard that is set by our staff here. And the staff, like myself, like you, have the honor of serving the Church of Jesus Christ. We just get to do it as per our job, right? And I know that each of the staff members that I will introduce, they don't take their role here lightly. And I want you to at least know the name. We didn't have enough room on the screen to put everybody's faces, except one guy. One guy got all of the real estate on the screen, and that's because he's new around here. So I'm honored to announce the one new member to the staff team, being Liam Hungate. You can see his profile there. Liam is entering into our environments team, which is a team filled with very talented people. The creative team lives in the environments, production lives in environments, worship lives in environments. This young man will also be wearing other hats as ministry entails. He'll be serving with our youth. So we welcome him, and if you see him, welcome him to Landmark Church. I wanted to show you not necessarily an org chart, but more or less how we are choosing to govern the ministry. As you know, biblically speaking, the elders are the overseers. That does not mean we are at the top of a hierarchy. In fact, true eldership requires us to be in the midst of the body, as a shepherd is tending to the sheep. But we are sheep ourselves, desperately needing to depend upon the good shepherd. It's where our strength is derived from. So as already introduced, John Shirk, Norm Johnson, myself, and Mark Emmon. What you're seeing on the screen is more or less ministries or departments, and I'll just run through them very quickly. We have an admin department. The admin is the back end, the logistics of the ministry. They keep us organized. That is made up of Melissa Abbott, who helps out with events, Eduardo Serrano, he's an admin assistant, a man of many hats. Jennifer Enmond, she is our operational administrator, again, keeps us on track. Brock Burns, a ministry assistant, like a jack of all trades. And each department has a ministry shepherd over it. And that ministry is overseen by Mark Emmon. Making our way to the care department or the care ministry, you'll notice John Shirk is that ministry shepherd. He works in close contact with the care team pastor, our first ordained minister, Terrence Sikoriak. He has as his right hand, let's say man, but it's a woman, Lainey Allegretto. She is the care administrator. There'll be more said about her, I can imagine, in a little bit. Gene Wilkins is our care team pastor with Terrence. And we also have Kathy Costello helping out as the care team assistant. Then there's environments. What is environments, you say? You're sitting in it. Environments is everything from lights, camera, action, all the social media, all the touch points, the advertisements, the marketing, everything you would see on a screen. That team is overseen by yours truly. I'm the shepherd of the environments team. I actually take great interest in what happens in the environments. Kyle Johnson, who you'll rarely see, is always hiding in the back, is part of production, actually responsible for all of the cool things we have going on here. His mind is brilliant when it comes to the tech side of things. We're a blessed church because of his service. Ethan Hoover oversees our media, so anything you would see in a creative element, whether it's a video on the screen, whether it's a graphic, and even the brochure that you're holding in your hand is likely put together by a very talented young man named Ethan Hoover. He will be helped by Liam Hungate, as already announced. Katie Alvis, accompanied by her hubby, Connor Alvis. They, in the environments, serve the worship team. You know that already. We look forward to welcoming back Katie after her first child, Judah River Alvis, who was with us for his first ever State of the Church meeting. Chad Taggart, who led us brilliantly in worship tonight, also helps out with the worship team and social media. Chris Abbott, usually in the back, is the production assistant that makes up the environments. Family Life, which is the building that you walk down the sidewalk, where we have our youth ministry, our children's ministry. The ministry shepherd is Norm Johnson. Nick Johnson, a new hire as of last year, helps out with the Family Life ministry and discipleship, which we believe is the lifeblood of a church. He helps out with the discipleship throughout every ministry, even though he takes his seat in Family Life. Carly Pascarosa is the Family Life administrator. Again, like Jen does with the admin overall, Carly does with the Family Life team. Dawson Coyle oversees the youth. When you see Dawson, thank him for serving in the youth. That is not an easy task. I remember those days trying to work with the youth or the next generation, or as Tommy profoundly put it, the church and the ones that are going to be raised up. Jacob Zincraft, he is working with our children and, get this, the young adults. How about that wide range with the kiddos and our young kiddos or the young adults? So we have a healthy, robust team that is honored to serve as your staff. And all of this is directed by, or all of the operations by, Mark Emmon, as you'll see on the screen. And here's what I'm excited to announce. It's something we've never really done at the church, but I believe it's valuable. I believe if we are being transparent and you're trusting the elders to oversee the ministry as the New Testament model demands, we also believe that we need to open our lives up to accountability, not just keeping each other accountable, which is why I'm excited to announce and at least bring you into some of the back end organization of our new Elder Advisory Board. What is an Elder Advisory Board? Well, it's made up of these three humble servants of God. Two of them we are blessed to have on staff, our very own landmark pastors. Pastor Terrence Sikoriak, he's in the elder room. He's helping advise the elders. He's helping influence decisions, but he is confident in his current position from a distance, advising from a voice outside in. Likewise, with the over 60 years, Pastor Gene? 64 years. 64 years of working in the body as a minister and a pastor. We are blessed to have Pastor Gene Wilkins sit as an advisor to the elders. That makes up the two landmark pastors, and they will be accompanied by, and this might be a man you know, he was referenced by Tommy, Pastor Gary Hamrick, who is the senior pastor of Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, Virginia. And you have no idea how blessed we are that he was willing to officially sit on an advisory board to this small ministry on the corner of 8th and West in Ocean City. And the reason I think that's valuable is because, one, I've opened up my life and my ministry to have him as one of my mentors, somebody I can call and get sound counsel from, but at the same time, somebody that we as an elder board can reach out to whenever we need an outside voice. Maybe we're tainted by being in the midst, we can call on Pastor Gary to influence us from a biblical worldview. So Wanted to introduce that to you. You should be extremely excited that we're making these decisions and moving in that direction. That's it from me. I'm honored to introduce to you Mark Emmon, who is going to be giving us a ministry update. And again, it's going to be a lot of data and details, but that's why the booklet is so valuable. Thank you, brother.
Well, what an honor it is to be here and to stand before you. And what a great turnout, 6 o'clock on Wednesday, just to see the people coming out to hear about what's happening to ministry. And so Tommy was mentioning his discipleship group and the beautiful couples that he was surrounded by. I wanted you to know that my wife Jen and I are one of those beautiful couples. So thanks for the plug. I appreciate it, Tom. So I'm going to talk about attendance tonight and go over some of the numbers of the church. You've heard me up here before. I'm a big numbers guy. I love to get into the details, and we're going to share with you some things that we've never shared before as a body, or to the body from the leadership of the church. And so we really believe in transparency, and we want you to know that there's nothing that's behind the curtain that's not visible for you to see. So our first slide is to talk about the attendance in 2023. Our in-person attendance overall, we had 35,000 people, just over 35,000 people, and 40,000 plus online. So that's for the year. That's how many people are hearing the word that's going out. That averages out to 673 on average per week in person, and 780 on average per week online. 9 o'clock's our busiest service. If you guys come at 9 o'clock, you probably know that. We average 340 people every 9 o'clock service. 11 o'clock is next. There's 210, and then 130 to 140 people come to the midweek service. And then our online is through Facebook, the app, the website, and YouTube. And YouTube is our primary online channel. And we have purposely pushed people to that. One of the things that we've been intentional to do over the last several years at the church is to try to take the many different platforms that we used, whether it was for how we ran the ministry or how you saw the ministry, and try to condense that. And we're still working on that. So that's intentional to push people towards YouTube. So on the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we did in 2023. And this could take a really long time because we do a lot of ministry at Landmark Church. And I'm proud to tell you that in 2022, we had 28 groups, small discipleship groups. In 2023, we have 46 groups and 435 attendees. So I'm really honored at the growth and proud of the participation from everyone. We performed 2 baptisms this year in the ocean, and we had 84 people get baptized. We had our 3rd annual golf tournament with Lost and Found. We had 54 golfers show up. We'll have the 4th annual coming up this year, and that golf tournament raised enough funds to provide food for a year for the people on the streets that we go out and serve every week with Lost and Found. Yeah. On the next slide, discipleship. Landmark 101 started this year. We had 238 people complete Landmark 101.
That means there's more.
What?
That means there's more people that need to take 101.
Yeah, y'all are sleeping on us, but that was 10 classes. We did 10 classes, so that's an average of almost 24 people a class. But if we've got 650 or 700 people coming out a week, we're missing 2/3 of the people. So we also ran biblical apologetics for 12 weeks. That was run by Nick Johnson here in this, I think it was in the sanctuary. And Elise and EC did biblical citizenship. I think we plan to run biblical citizenship again this year. And we also ran a women's Bible study this year. I wanted to make sure I mention that, only because you may say it's not a big deal, but going back a year ago at the elders retreat, it was something that the elders were very adamant about, was that we were really hoping to get a women's Bible study started. And Lynn Shropshire came forward and actually did 2 classes a day And we actually provided childcare at one of the services, and it was just a huge blessing, to our ministry to have her plug in and to be able to offer that to you guys. And then as far as activities go, gosh, there's so many of them, but various church and community activities and regular group activities. Well, what does that mean? That means that we had an open door event where we opened up our church to people to come in and learn about our ministries and what we do. We had a leadership barbecue, worship nights, worship cruise, praise in the park, a movie night. We fielded 2 softball teams that finished first and second place. We had an art workshop where you could come in and learn to do art and craft and paint, run by Carlos Mendoza. We have groups, activity groups that go beyond the discipleship of Bible study. We had surfing, pickleball, climbing, motorcycles, golf, basketball, and a beach meet. Quite a variety. So I never want to hear someone come to me and say there's nothing to do at the church. There's a lot going on at Landmark Church, and wait till you see what's going to happen in 2024. We also offer support, and Terrence is going to talk more about this, but we have a vastly growing and quickly growing and successfully growing care team. We offered Grief Share, run by Jay and Sharon Keeley. They ran for 12 weeks. That will run again starting February 6th. We have This One Voice that runs every Tuesday night. We have a recovery group that's here on site every Monday night that's run by Sherry Ridgway. We offer benevolence. We have a marriage intensive retreat that's going to be here on February 3rd. If you haven't signed up, sign up for it now. On to our next slide. This is, we had our first Landmark pastor ordination with our own Pastor Terrence Sikoriak. And I had the honor of being the first Landmark ordained elder at the church. So that was truly an honor. We are looking forward in 2024 to do Landmark 201 and to raise up some deacons in the body, as Matt talked about on Sunday. So community relations, we did a rebrand, right? We changed our name. That was a huge lift for many on staff. We did the interior and exterior of the building with paint. We put up signage outside. We had to rebrand all of our platforms, our digital platforms, social media, Google. You'd be amazed at the amount of places that your name touches. And we were successful in doing that, and it was handled well by our team. We also joined the Chamber of Commerce. One of our goals for 2023 and going into 2024 is to have more community involvement. We want to start taking the church to the people. And our goal in doing that is to raise up some committees, which we've started to do. We have a public affairs committee or a community relations committee, and they're involved in going out and getting involved in what's happening at the school board meetings or what's happening at the town meetings, and having a voice for the Christian community and for the church specifically here at Landmark. But we joined the Chamber of Commerce. That opened some doors for us to get involved in the community. And when we did that, some things came along with it that we weren't expecting. They called us up and said, "Do you want to have a ribbon cutting for Landmark Church?" We said, "Sure." And so we had a ribbon cutting. And then we also got an email, and they said, "Hey, you guys won an award for the best landscaping and new signage." So our new Landmark signage that is out there, I guess the city liked that, or Chamber of Commerce liked that, and the flowers that our staff planted. And so we're proud of that, and we're proud of the Landmark Church and the things that have changed. We continue on with our next slide to the missions and partnerships. We've got 17 missionaries we serve. We serve them locally. We serve them globally. We formed a new partnership with Jehovah Jireh and the orphanage. We were blessed to have a gift giving and wrapping party here at the end of the year that supplied clothing to 80 plus orphans in South Africa that Scott and team and several other staff members delivered to the children last week or the week before. We've expanded our partnership with Lost and Found. We've opened up some other opportunities with Options for Her, and we're partnering with them in some ways. And so there's lots of ministry to do, lots of work to do. So that's just a quick snapshot of 2023, and I could take an hour to talk about the things that we've done. But I'm going to move on to the financial update. The spreadsheet that you see before you is we've never shared numbers openly before with the church. And our intentionality as the elders and the leaders of the church is to make sure that you understand what's happening, what's coming in, what's going out, where it's going, because we want to be good stewards of what you've blessed us with. So when you look at the financial update, it goes back to 2018, and the orange column is the giving, and the blue column are the expenses. And so you can kind of see the trend through the years. In 2021, you see things jumped up. We went up to 3.5 million, this is millions, in giving. That was the year we did a campaign for Summers Point. And so we took those funds and we paid for Summers Point. And then this year we brought in 1.9 and we spent 1.9. You know, we are a nonprofit, right? Our job's not to build up money for stockholders. Our stockholders in heaven. And so our job is to take the resources you give us and use it to build ministry and to make disciples and to bring souls to Christ. And so the money that we get is the money that we use. We did have some expenses this year that were abnormal. We put signage up. We did some things with real estate that John Sharp's going to go over with you. We had to do some updates to our AVL stuff so that we could continue to put a quality product in this house and online. And so we're thankful and we appreciate your giving. That 1.9 million that was given in 2023 was by 733 individual donors. That's $2,592 per person. If you break that down per week, that's $50 per week. If you break down $50 per week into times 52, it's about $25,000 a year in salary if you're given 10% of your tithe. My point in saying that is that there's room for us to do more and to do better. And I'm talking to myself as well. And I just know that there's a lot of ministry that's in front of us, and we all share the same goal of bringing souls to Christ. And I know we all want to hear, thank you and good job, my servant, one day. So I just bring that to your attention because I think there's room for improvement, and I would love to see us give more. As a ministry, we don't talk about it. We don't pass a plate around, but I think it's important that everyone has an idea of who's giving or how much we're giving and what we're doing with the funds. And if you have any questions about any of the finances, feel free to grab me at any time, and I'll be willing to talk about it. On the next slide, I'm going to tell you what we did with that $1.9 million. 49% of it went to payroll. That's $931,000. So we have 21 staff. You can do the math. It's about $44,000 per person. Some people make a little bit more, some people make a little bit less, but that's on average of what the payroll is. The average, and we'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide when we get to the national averages, but it's interesting to see that it's very common for churches to spend 40 to 66% of their income on the expense of payroll. And we spent 18% on operations. Operations is fixed costs like insurance, utilities, licensing, supplies, buildings and ground, rent, right? So we're relatively in a very healthy financial situation. We don't carry any real debt other than the rent that we pay for our Family Life Ministry building next door. Ministries is all the ministry work we do. All the things I mentioned before, including Family Life Ministry, men's ministry, women's ministry, the youth, the young adults. Missions is, ministries is also missions, which includes benevolence, lost and found, Jehovah Jireh, KP, and all of our missionaries. So on the next slide, it's us versus what everyone else is doing. And so there's three sources that we use. It's Empowering Stewardship, Church Law and Tax, and churchsalary.com to get the national averages. But the national averages of payroll is 52% versus our 49%. Again, that can range up to 60% plus. and goes down to 40% plus, generally in smaller operations. Their operations costs are 21%, their fixed costs, ours are 18%. They're spending 21% on their ministries, we're spending 28%, and miscellaneous is pretty close at 5% and 6%. So, in closing, I said this last time I was up speaking with y'all, and I think it's important to say again, because I think we hang our hat on the fact that we let God do a lot of the work through our ministry. We don't spend any money on fundraising. We don't spend any money on marketing. We don't sponsor ads on social media. We don't put, signs around town. I've talked about that before. We don't, put an ad in the newspaper. We're not, going out to platforms and spending money to market us. We feel like our ministry is marketing itself, and our job is to market our ministry by going out to the people, and that's what we're doing. So, amen. 100% of your donations to a specific ministry are allocated to that ministry. The majority of the giving that comes in is mostly towards the general fund. Most of you just give to the general fund. But there are several ministries beyond that you all are given to, whether it's Lost and Found, or Jehovah Jireh, or hospitality. There's several different options on there, but the majority goes to the general fund, and we're able to utilize those funds as we need to support the ministry. But 100% of your money that you allocate to a specific ministry goes to that ministry. So if you give money to Jehovah Jireh, that money's going to the orphanage. If you give and servicing that orphanage, if you give money to Lost and Found, all of your money, that $100, that $1,000, that dollar goes to support Lost and Found. It doesn't go for us to buy hats for us to put on our heads. It goes for us to buy hats to put on the people's heads. So, and we remain, like I said, in a healthy financial state. As a nonprofit, our job is to spend the money you give us, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to manage our costs. Again, we have low overhead. We've got this building that's paid for. We have our cafe that's paid for. And we've got the rent next door. And those are really our big expenses, our rent and our fixed costs, which are insurances and licenses and so forth. And then giving and tithing, I touched on a little bit, but I think Norm wants to say a couple things about giving. So Norm, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mark. For those who don't know me, my name is Norm Johnson. I'm one of the elders here. I've been here probably, I want to bet I've been here the longest of anybody here. Been a long time. I don't know how long I've been an elder, though. I lose track of time on that. But anyway, I was talking to Mark about the topic of giving and tithing, and it wasn't until this moment I realized that this could be the most unpopular topic of the night. Okay. But however, I actually was looking at the slides in preparation for tonight, and we came across this, well, it's gone now, but it was talking about giving and tithing. And I guess it was, I saw it Sunday. Monday night, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning with the giving and tithing on my mind, and I was wide awake. That's not unusual for me to wake up early in the morning, but I came with this heavy burden about what are we doing with giving and tithing. I was looking at the numbers, and Mark showed you before how we kind of meet in the alongside with most other ministries our size, as far as what we do with our money and how we have staff and what we spend on rent and buildings and so forth. And I was wondering if we actually also fall into the same category as most other churches on tithing and giving. So I did some research on it, and I didn't run our own numbers. But if we are average, the average number of people who tithe in this country is actually 5% of all those who call themselves Christians who go to Christian churches, just 5%. The good news on that part is that those who do tithe usually tithe more than 10%. And 10% according to the Old Testament tithe is 10% according to the Old Testament. But only 5% give as part of the tithe. After that, by age, the numbers drop dramatically, and they go from mostly senior citizens down to young adults. Senior citizens giving approximately $2,000 down to $500 a year. It's not very impressive. And you can start to imagine if the entire church tithe, or even just 10% of the church tithe, or 20% of the church started tithing, how much more will we have to do ministry well here, or even better? We are not short of funds. We don't take into consideration money when we decide we're going to do a certain ministry or when we try to expand. We know the money will come. You have been good givers. But tithing is a topic that I think is really something that we have ignored as a church because of the stigma that happens to be around it based on some of our past experiences at other churches where people are constantly asking for money. But we are instructed to give, if you know your Bible. And some of you may argue with me, hey, you know what, tithing is an Old Testament concept. Well, it is. It is an Old Testament concept. But this past summer, I had a chance to get involved with a group called Kingdom Advisors. And maybe some of you have heard about them. But Kingdom Advisors works with other advisors. In my day job, I'm in the financial advice business. And normally what I'm trained to do is tell people how to make money, gather money, hold on to it, don't pay taxes, and save it until you die and pass it off to a family member who will then spend it on vacations and cars, and then slowly get back into debt again, okay? But with Kingdom Advisors, we are trained to tell people how to gather money for what's enough for them, save for the future, of course, and then recognize that what we have is from God's hand. And what we should be doing with our money is kingdom work, not future work for family members who may blow it, or for things that may rot and disappear on us. And so we know that the Bible talks about giving and tithing in the Old Testament, and they're concepts that we should adhere to. But Jesus said, hey, what should we do with our money, right? He said that we should not store it up here in heaven where what happens to it? Where it fades, it gets eaten up by moths, it rusts, it gets stolen by thieves. But store up your treasure in heaven where it doesn't get eaten up by moths and rust, and thieves don't come in and steal. And there, when you give to his work here, your heart will be where your treasure is. So I just wanted to encourage you to say, hey, maybe I should, in this year, think about giving more or tithing more to the work that we're doing here. We're doing a great work here. You just saw a list of things that have happened this past year. You're going to hear about some future things that are happening. But I want to challenge you. We've already had some challenges this year. We had a challenge that Matt has asked us to put people in the seats here so they can hear the message, so they can expand their lives in Christ and grow and share their love for Christ and with their family and friends and get more people involved, okay? And then a few weeks ago, Terrence encouraged us to be diligent, and he encouraged us to read Proverbs and be diligent in our walk with the Lord and pursue the Lord and pursue his promises. I love that word diligent. I've adopted it myself. I think we should adopt it as a church. But I want to challenge you once more to tithe. But that's not my real challenge. I want you to tithe, but I want you to think about this. I want you to tithe, and I want you to tithe on the gross. That number that hits your pocket, or before it hits your pocket, before Uncle Sam gets it, before your 401k contributions get it, before your HSA, before whatever else you're doing, I want you to look at that number that God gives you before the tax man takes it. Because the Bible didn't have a tax man coming after their money in those days. They got what they got, and they gave their tithe to the Lord, okay? So I hope you'll accept that challenge today, okay? Because I have. And I'll tell you right now, there's lots of people in this church who are doing that, and you can give testimony to how God fulfills his promises that he will bless you in the tithe. He really will. So if you think you like to tithe and you want to talk more about it and you can't, or you're having some struggles with it, I'd be happy to talk with you about that. You know, John Shirk meets with folks and helps them with their finances. I think it's a very, very important thing to do and to consider for this next year. If you don't like what I said, you're angry and you are upset about this topic, just send us an email and Matt Mayer will handle the comment. He's used to getting hate mail, so he can handle this very well. So that's all I got on that topic. Next, I want to pass this off to Terrence, I believe, right?
Where's Laney? I can't do anything without Laney. I need Laney. No, Laney and I got to do. So Laney is my administrator. Laney's so great. Last month I went on the air. Last month, I went on the Saints Prison Ministry, and we went to 5 prisons in Florida. And my wife and I were planning a vacation for this week. We're going this week. And Lainey so kindly said, Terrence, if you get killed in prison, I'll go on vacation with Jen. I was like, I feel so good about that, Lainey. She's always thinking about me. My name is Terrence Secoria. Come on. Are you nervous? Okay. Yeah, she does announcements. She's great. I am the pastor of the care team. Lainey is my administrator, and we've got such a great team. We've got a wonderful team. Our vision is in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 2. It says, "Shepherd the flock of God among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntarily according to the will of God, not with greed, but with eagerness." In September of 2022, we had a meeting, one of our first meetings for the care team. We had about 10 people, right? We had 10 people. And since then, people have joined, just coming and joining. And I was on the boardwalk, taking a walk. Remember this, Carl? Carl gives me a call. He says, "What do you think about the care team?" And he gave us some strategies on how to build it. We went from 10 people, we now have 52 eager members, great people. It's a wonderful team. You should come join. But what we do is we do coaching. If somebody comes in, hey, look, I don't want counseling. I just want some direction for my life. We can coach them or mentor them. We do meals. We'll deliver meals. We give rides. We do the grief sharing. We have a premarital counselor and marriage counseling, an exhaustive list of resources with counselors, therapists, rehab centers, social services. It has become a robust thing, and it continues to grow. People are joining all the time. And Elaine? She's flustered.
No, I'm not. He asked me to come up here, and so I'm up here. There's some stuff on the screen, and it's just a small highlight of what people on the care team have had the opportunity to do. And he mentioned a meeting almost a year and a half ago at this point. And I think that he would agree after that meeting, wasn't very hopeful about what would happen with the care team. But the past year and a half has been a testament of the faithfulness of God within our team, and then just multiplied that with the entire church. So thank you to our team for the way that you stepped up. You guys serve so selflessly, and it's just humbling to be a part of that. I'm in awe of God and the way that he works through you all. But also thank you to the church, because you don't have to be on the care team to care for people. It's all of you guys, and you're all doing it. So thank you for being the church. And echoing what these guys are saying, I would encourage you guys to get more involved and to be here and be a part of what God is doing here. So thank you, Terrence, and for your leadership.
Amen. And I'm going on the vacation. Maybe next time, Delaney. Okay, you can go without. And some of the new initiatives that we're doing this year, we have a partnership with Shore Memorial, and they're willing to train some of our care team to go visit patients and pray with them. We're also we're dealing with mental health and addiction counselors as well. We're forming a medical team for in here. If somebody has medical training for in here. If something happens, someone can help. And something very exciting that we got to do as a care team last week. And James and Akoya, could you stand up, please? Just stand up for a second. So Nick Johnson and I baptized these two last week at the Aquatic Center, and we were able to do it there because Lainey set that up. So, because there was no way I was going into the ocean in January. That's a care team. I want to give it to Norm. Is it Norm now? Family Life?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Lainey.
Thank you. I need a guide or something. Oh, it's right here. I'm sorry, I'm new here. No, there we go. Thank you. All right, that's mine. All right, Family Life is the area that I am the elder over. And actually, who's running that, and we mentioned it earlier, but Nick Johnson, Carly Pascarosa, Dawson Coyle, and Jacob Zingrave. Are any of them here? Are they all over next door? They're all working. They're all working in Family Life. That's what they should be. Okay. Just testing to see if they snuck in here or not. But I had a nice talk with Nick and Carly a couple of days ago about what's actually going on over there. And just want to run some numbers past you that you can see here on the screen. Word of Life Camp is very, very popular for the kids every summer. And this year we were able to send 151 kids. And thanks to the donations that were given by you folks, we were able to send 23 kids who normally would not have been able to go to camp. It's pretty expensive. What is it, like $600? Is it? I'm like guessing. I'm making numbers up, but something like that, right? And then they had the all-nighter with 49 students. And all-nighter in no way, shape, or form sounds like a good idea to me, but they had fun. The last time I did an all-nighter, I had a sausage pizza too late at night. And then Landmark Kids are now available at both services. And Carly was telling me the other day that the second service is now getting some momentum with kids in the service, so it's working out quite well. And this Sunday, I was able to stay for a little bit of the second service. Those numbers are getting quite well for the second service. It almost looked like the first service. So that's having some momentum to it, and it's working out quite well for folks who can't get up early enough with little kids to get out to a second service. In Family Life, we have over 100 active leaders for the kids there. On average, we're seeing about 26 servants there. On average, they're serving about once a month, okay? So serving quite well. If you're not helping out in any way, shape, or capacity, they really could use an extra hand there. And again, if you were helping out, of course, the time that you would serve would spread out even further than once a month. Junior High Bible Study is now happening on Sunday nights. Averaging about 24 kids, about 50 kids max. The youth discipleship groups are new this year, where Dawson has now taken the groups, broken them out into small groups so they can have more of a one-on-one focus, or I shouldn't say one-on-one focus, but a small group focus with each of these kids, and that's new and has been received very well. And junior high groups, there's about 18 students, again, 40 students max there. I was talking with Nick, and he was telling me that, hey, basically when you see the average church, and I talked a lot about average churches tonight, you're going to see about one servant, one staff person to every 70 kids. But here at Landmark, we're able to get that number to 1 to 40 kids. So again, a little bit closer connection with these kids, one-on-one connections. Carly says that she has a great time meeting with girls one-on-one. That takes up a lot of her time during the week. And so we're really starting to see youth group grow. Again, second service, we're seeing that area grow with kids also. But as always, in every church I've ever been involved in, youth ministries could always use a helping hand. If you're a parent and you're not serving, but you're dropping your kids off, I would highly encourage you, get involved. They could use the help, and it would be greatly appreciated. That's our update for Family Life. Next, we have media.
Thank you, Norm. So it sounds like, as we make our way through some of the content, that, wow, the church seems to be in good standing. And it is, because God has been faithful to us. However, we know there is a danger if we tell you where we're at, whether it's the financial update, whether it's the wideness, I would say, of the ministry. But there's so much more to do. And I am asking each of us to consider our involvement and our contribution to the body of Christ, because that's what the Bible mandates. And I'm going to tease that out from Romans chapter 12 this Sunday. You're not going to want to miss the message that the Lord is stirring within me. Speaking of media, some have said through the years, why do we spend time and why are we attentive to media? Well, it's a great question. Before you see some of the numbers, which again, as you can tell through the past 2 years, personally, I'm not interested in the numbers. It's good to track them. It's good to measure where we're at least the reach we have. But I'm interested in the lives being discipled. And we've learned through technology, especially since 2020, that there are people who might not be able to come through these doors because of distance. Nor can they find a church, and this is the sad reality, nor can they find a church that is teaching the Word of God and is vibrant and healthy, made up of a people who want to put Christ on the throne of his church. So they're watching us online. I am the recipient, and it is my honor to receive the emails that come in on a weekly basis. Some come directly to the church website and they're forwarded to me. But I can assure you, they're watching. And they're being discipled by the Word of God. And that is why our media analytics are valuable, especially for such a time as this. Email that came in, I'll read it. We are part of a small house church here in New Zealand. I want to thank you for the teachings. They have been a huge blessing since the pandemic began. We are currently going through the series on the life of Joseph. We appreciate Matthew's strong biblical foundation and are greatly blessed and encouraged. Grateful, we are thankful. Thank you for sharing your teachings on YouTube, awaiting his return. And again, I know my name's in there, thank you, but that's the work of the Lord through us. I just have the honor of getting up here and yelling at you from week to week. This one was specifically written to me. Hi, Matthew Mayer. I just want you to know that many are waking up to the need of God's word. I hope I mentioned many. It's like hearing it for the first time. God calling his people back to himself. These are church people who seem to be hearing it for the first time. It's crazy, but it's true. There are pockets of people everywhere recognizing their need for the word and listening to the exhortation from Landmark. Even though our world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, these faithful followers, many are millennials, by the way, are excited for what God is doing. You've called them to stand firmly on God's word. Thank you, dear brother, for your obedience to God. In our little province of Manitoba, Canada, hearts are turning back to Jesus. And where so many pastors have been faithful to his word, your church has. Blessings to you and Landmark. I mean, that's just two of many that are reporting to being discipled by the word of God from this ministry. So the media analytics that we want you to see include Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The reach number is more or less eyes seeing the content. That could be for a second scrolling through a feed. Not really as valuable or as important, but at least it's out there. 115,000 have been reached by our content on Facebook. We have over 300 new page likes, which means somebody is interested in coming to Landmark's Facebook page. But here's the point I want to make. We have over 87,000 visits, and that's the number that matters, that are actually going out of their way to click on our profile and scroll through our content. That is 148% increase from 2022. Similarly, on Instagram, you may have scrolled through it. 37,000 plus have scrolled through and may have seen something, but they didn't engage it. We have 530 new followers on Instagram. That's the size of that's bigger than most churches. People that are saying, I want to see what Landmark's posting. But again, 18,000 plus visits to our profile. That is up from 2022, 118%. These are measurables that people are coming to a church to find biblical content where other churches may be struggling with their online presence. Our church is thriving. YouTube is our primary platform where we, of course, upload our sermon content along with our website. But for media's sake, we've had over 275,000 views on our videos. That amounts to 64,000 watch hours. That is a 30% growth from 2022. We've gained 1,700 subscribers. That's unbelievable. That is a 58% increase since 2022. Those numbers are phenomenal. And again, what do they mean? It means they're exposed to biblical teaching, whether it's from Pastor Terrence, whether it's from Nick Johnson, whether it's from me, whether it's from our guest speakers. That's how many people are being discipled online who cannot, because of distance, make it through these doors. Pastor Gene said, they're seeds sown, and rightly said, because that's what the Word of God is. It's a seed sown. Our own website and our own app, which we all know you have downloaded by now, that is our primary means of communication, as well as where all of our content and resources live. Of course, because of our rebrand, we've created a brand new website, and we've changed our app to align with that strategy. Our website has had 88,000 organic page views. Mind you, 0 of that was because we paid for it. We didn't pay for any of the people that are coming to our webpage. People have chosen Watch Live on our website over 11,000 times. And of course, our app, get this, it has increased our app usage by going to the app that we use now on our church center by 3,000%. And I think that is supposed to say yo. 3,000% yo. No, that means year over year. 300%, excuse me. We'll get to 3,000%. 300% year over year. I mean, this is substantial. In a day and age where technology drives, we are using it to advance the kingdom of Christ on earth. We are using it to propagate the gospel. And if you continue to support us in that way, whether you're liking, commenting, or even sharing the sermons, which I encourage you to do in your news feed, we will grow these numbers exponentially, and people will be exposed to the gospel. So that's the media update. And now I have the honor of introducing John Shirk, who's going to give us a real estate update.
Okay, so we're in the home stretch. Real estate's at the tail end of this presentation, and I just want to give you a little bit of an update of where we've been and where we're headed. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know a little bit about where we've been, but for those of you who might be a little bit newer, I just want to give you a little bit of a background. A number of years ago, our goal, our plan was to build a campus here in Ocean City by getting different buildings. And we had the sanctuary here, and some of you remember we had 712 West right down the street. And then some outside influence came into our church and recommended we buy some land in Summers Point, and we started to go down that road, and it turns out that that's not the road that God had us on, and we sold that land in Summers Point. I think there's probably a slide up here. Yeah, so the Summers Point property has been sold, and when we sold that Summers Point property, that allowed us to buy the property at 710 Asbury Avenue, which is going to become our cafe. But before I go into the cafe and the update there, I want to say that a family in our church has blessed us by allowing us to use a building in Summers Point on Dobbs Avenue. Do we have a slide for the Dobbs Avenue property? Yeah, so the Dobbs Avenue property, if you look at the top left-hand corner, top left-hand corner, that's the office space for our care team and Lost and Found. So we obviously don't have a lot of space here at the sanctuary for people to have meetings. And over at the Family Life Center, which we rent, right behind us, it's not that private. So this building that we have in Summers Point allows us to have meetings, have some confidentiality for our care team to meet with people, allows the Lost and Found team to set up and do the work for Atlantic City and wherever Lost and Found is taking the show on the road. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the slides, that is a view of the building on Dobbs Avenue. If you look at the top right-hand corner, that's where the food preparation is done. That's where the storage is done for Lost and Found Ministry. We don't have to do it here on premise anymore. We can do all the prep work over in Summers Point. And if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, it's just more refrigeration and areas for us to store whatever materials we need, food and supplies for the Atlantic City mission that we do through Lost and Found. So very generous support from one of the families that does not want to be mentioned by name, but we thank you for giving us that property on Dobbs Avenue and Summers Point to use. So we have an outreach there. Moving to the next slide is the real estate cafe update. And we have this property that we purchased using the proceeds from the Summers Point land that we sold at 710 Asbury. And I'm not quite sure how helpful this is to you. This is the unfinished product, but the top left-hand corner shows you some of the property that's unfinished at this point. What has happened is we've stripped it all down to the bones, and we're going to be building it back up very soon. The second floor that we had hoped to develop right away has been put on hold temporarily because we have to reinforce the floors on the second floor. They're not stable enough at this point to do ministry on the second floor. We've got plans down the road, but the goal is to open up this cafe in the spring. And there's some beautiful plans that we've got prepared. You recall when we talked about this cafe before, the idea was it would be the nicest coffee house, the finest cafe in Ocean City. We didn't want to do it half-heartedly. We really wanted to put together a really nice presentation where, again, it's been mentioned here from the platform, we go out and we meet the community where they are and open up the doors and let people have a great experience. So the next slide, I believe, will show.
Can I add real quick, John?
Yeah.
I hate to butt in. Obviously,
No.
those pictures might be underwhelming, but you got to understand the original footprint, it was a flooring place. So we've cleared out all that, obviously. And as John said, the goal was to strip it down, reinforce the second floor, clear it out so that we can actually visualize what it could be. And that is why this blueprint will show you from the aerial view the space. And the space, if you know, and you're here on a Sunday, especially post 9 a.m. and sometimes even 11 a.m., we're gearing up for the second service, so we're typically pushing people out, and there's not much space in the foyer to have fellowship. And we just thought having a bridge from the sanctuary to less than a block walk to Landmark Cafe as a front-facing influence on the community that is going to be, Lord willing, filled with you guys. And as you support the cafe, it's going to be a hub where we believe some of our staff members might be working there during the week. We'd love to place some of our counselors there during the week. No better place than to interact with the community than in a coffee house, right? And imagine having our own care team sipping some coffee down there, huh, T? I can see you now.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah. And just introducing themselves. Hey, what brought you here? And then obviously share who they are in relation to the cafe and point them to where we want them in the main sanctuary. So we're excited. I don't know if John's going to mention it. We're hoping to have everything finished before Memorial Day, or at least for Memorial Day, if the Lord would will it, and the timetable stays true. We still have a lot of work to do, as you can tell, and that's where we're inviting you into it. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Thanks, Matthew. You can see now the slide that's up on the screen. This is the architect design for the property. You see Asbury Avenue on the right side. Yep, on the right side of your slide. And as you come in off of Asbury Avenue, you see seating for about 60 people. I believe 60 is the number that we settled on. You see a curved counter, which is the walk-up counter that people will go to order whatever they're going to have from the cafe, food, beverages. As you go down to the left-hand side behind that curved counter area, you're going to see some kitchen space. You're going to see some storage space. You're going to see some freezers, some refrigerators. One of the beautiful things about this property is that not only will we be able to serve the community, but we'll also be able to do meals for Landmark Church, for our own congregation, out of the same facility. There's you see bathrooms that are towards the back of the building as well. And then you see one space that is a children's play area. So we're going to have a children's play area. If parents want to come in and they want to put their kids in the play area, let them play in that area. To be a really nice area.
Comes with a lock. Lock
Yeah.
them in there.
It'll come with a lock.
Enjoy your cafe experience.
Yeah, right.
Soundproof.
Yeah, and if the parents take too much time, we just put the kids to work back in the kitchen. Whatever it takes. But we're going to have an area for the kids. It should be a really cool place. I mean, I've seen a lot of different design work. We're really excited about it, and we hope to have it open this spring. So we've come a long way.
Can I add some?
Yeah.
John gave me permission before the presentation, just so
Matt
you know.
asked for permission before I ever got up here.
I want you to also note that even though it has 68 seats, it's not really going to look like that. It's going to look like there's cozy living room spaces, right? So there will be tabletops and seats, as you can imagine, but we want to make it really warm, a place you want to go and study the Bible, a place you want to do a Bible study in and put your kids in the play area, a place where you can have small meetings. We want to make it comfortable. So that's all in the works. We also are inviting you in to the project, as you can imagine. It's going to require resources. We're not interested in doing a capital campaign for any of the announcements about real estate. We're just not. I believe God is faithful. I believe he'll continue to provide as he wills. I believe that with all my heart. But I also believe, as Norm said, that it's our responsibility to answer the call and to be contributing to the body as we feel prayerfully led. But there is a biblical mandate to do just that. So we're not going to put numbers on the screen on how big of an ask we have for this project specifically. I'm asking you to prayerfully consider, but I'm also asking you to perhaps tonight make a commitment. It might not be everybody in this room, and I'm okay with that. We are okay with that. And we actually had somebody, I'm going to name him, Chip Deegan, make these amazing handcrafted coasters. And they're customized. And he put the Landmark logo on them, right? And I thought it was the most thoughtful gift that he was going around sharing with people. And we said, what better way than for you to make a commitment to support the cafe monetarily, above and beyond what you're currently giving to the church, right? Because a lot of times we would take from one budget and begin giving to a different budget. What I'm asking you to consider prayerfully is giving above and beyond. If that's you, I don't know how many are over there, but on this table, before you leave, we wanted to gift you the coaster, but more or less let it be a touch point, right? A touch point. That when you see the coaster or you utilize the coaster, it's your reminder to support what God is doing here and what he will do at Landmark Cafe. So, I'm asking you to make that decision tonight. If you're willing to commit to that, come on up afterwards, grab a coaster, and let that be your token of commitment. And again, we're not going to know who took them. We will watch on the cameras who took them. No, but we're not going to know. It's going to be between you and the Lord. So I hope that you believe the vision that has been presented about the Landmark Cafe, and we're excited to, of course, introduce it come this summer.
Yep, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate that.
Coaster's worth $5,000.
Just to take the real estate one step further, as it's been explained in the past, it's difficult here in Ocean City. It's an island, it's expensive. Getting any sort of real estate is not easy. The Lord has been very gracious to us in our pursuits. One of the things that we've dealt with for as long as we've had this sanctuary here is the Family Life Center across the parking lot in the back. And ever since we've been here, we've had to rent the Family Life Center. And it's a pretty heavy lift. Mark will give you the numbers on how much it is, but each year we spend renting that space, and it's great to have it because we need it, but it's not ideal in that we rent it. So in the past, you've heard that we've been looking for another building to replace the Family Life Center that we actually own. So we've been out there, we've been searching, and we really want to replace the Family Life Center. And recently, we have come across a building in town on the 900 block of Asbury Avenue. And we are pursuing that building. We're currently under contract on that building at 910 Asbury Avenue. So we are going to be, if the Lord wills and this all goes through, we're going to be on the 700 block of Asbury Avenue. We're going to be on the 800 block here of West, and we're going to be on the 900 block of Asbury Avenue. Only through God's grace. He's been so merciful to us. I don't know how we do it with the numbers, but you've all been so generous, and we thank you for it. And I believe we have a little video, so cue the video. So we're moving forward with God's grace, and we're really thankful for all the support that you've given us along the way, prayerfully and financially. We're moving forward. So I'm going to pass it.
How big is that space?
5,000 square feet is what the space is. So it's the equivalent of what we have at the Family Life Center right now. We're probably going to lay it out a little bit more ideally than we have at the Family Life Center.
Right, because if you've been to the Family Life Center, you notice that when you walk in and there's that check-in area, at least from the first door, that's really just dead space that is not used beyond check-in. If you go in the other far door, that is the largest room in what we call the FLC, and yet we don't utilize it because it's not classroom space. There's that back classroom, which many of you have been in. Then there's the sub-classrooms. You have the nursery, the toddlers, the 1st through 5th grade room. So a lot of that space is not usable. This building, equivalent to the square footage, is all going to be usable. Please ignore the stripper poles that you saw. We're not going to use those. I know. Couldn't help myself.
The rock climbing wall is going to stay, isn't it?
Yeah. So once we get the vision behind that, I want you to know this. I know. You're still laughing. That's not helping. it literally is only a little bit more of a walk beyond the current FLC. But we're working on a system where you'll be able to drive up, if you're a parent, in the back alley, you'll be able to literally drive up. You don't even have to get out of your car. We're working on a system where you can check in your children right through the window, like a drive up. Our team will take it from there. You can wrap around and find parking like you would normally do it. Remember, there was a season where we had to do our family life ministry at the Ocean City Tabernacle because of the space. But now this, if God wills it, will be part of our real estate as the campus design 7th, 8th, and 9th. And as you've heard, not just the Landmark Cafe, but now this new FLC building is going to require your support. And that's why we wanted to present it to you this way. We believe it's the right decision. We also believe that the Family Life team is going to be able to do more ministry in their own space. We're not allowed to change anything in the current FLC, and we do pay a pretty penny to rent that 12 months out of the year. So instead of renting it and losing that money, we're now going to redirect it into a building that we would own. So I hope you're excited about what the Lord is doing here in the ministry. I promise Wednesdays moving forward are going to be very concise. We promised 6 p.m. start and get you out by 7:15. It's a little beyond that, but I think you understand why. The brochure has all of the details we shared on the screen, and perhaps barcodes at the end where you can rewatch that video. You can also take a picture of the barcode and it'll take you to the Google map image or the address of the new property. You can walk by and look through the window. It's a substantial footprint and it's a substantial space. So we'll end. John, you may have your seat. I'm going to end by telling you what's coming up in 2024. Very quickly, as you may know, Marriage Intensive. We're going to do more of that to cater to families and marriages. We're excited to have a student co-op. I believe that's the beginning of something very special as far as education goes. A student co-op including homeschool families being able to drop off their students perhaps for one day, a week, maybe more, where we can interact with them in a very organized way, perhaps in our new FLC building. Landmark 201 is being queued up. Landmark 201 is going to be about covenant of what it means to be a Christian part of a church. We don't have official membership here, but we actually do. If you're in our system, you have a profile in Planning Center, you're a member. And we're going to track in order to disciple, tracking how we serve, how we give, how we attend. Landmark 201 is going to tease that out. What does covenant mean as a Christian part of a church? We have more missions trips planned. India, Guatemala. We'll report this Sunday about our trip to South Africa. Wait until you hear what the Lord did there. The cafe will be opening, as already announced. We'll do a second annual VBS, a Vacation Bible School. That was amazing to open our doors to do that. And our new Family Life building on the horizon. And that is it. And there's so much more. This is the state of his church. And I want to leave you with an encouraging word. I believe to be a healthy body, not only do we submit to the scriptures, not only, as Tommy said, we engage in fellowship, joining a discipleship group, doing life together, not only what EC and Alicia said about hearing the voice of the Lord and how intimate he is to communicate where he wants us and how he wants to use us. But I believe if we get these two H's right, we will maintain and sustain the health of a body. And the first H is holy. If we keep God in his rightful place as a holy God, and we revere him, and we fear him, if we fear him, that doesn't mean we cower away from him because of Jesus. We come confidently, but there's a reverence. And he is holy. And if he is holy, he makes us holy. And a holy body takes God's word seriously. Amen? I believe if we get that H right, we will stay healthy. I also believe the second H, if we stay humble, each of us, that you would keep me humble and I would keep you humble. If we lead by humility in this place, I believe if we keep God as holy and we maintain our posture of humility, I think that's what it's going to take to stay healthy. Amen? So, with that being said, I'd ask you to prayerfully consider taking a commitment coaster as our gift to you, but obviously as a touch point to remember to support Landmark Cafe. If you have any questions that you want answered, the elders are going to hang out up front. Pastor Terrence, please spend time asking us those questions. I don't think I've missed anything. Mark always keeps me honest. Good to go? Would we pray? Let's do it. Father, thank you. Thank you that we can report on the state of your church, the work that you've done, the work that you will continue to do, the work that you will complete. Would we get out of your way so you can have your way? Would you bless us? Would you give us your wisdom? Would you grant us integrity, transparency, to continue to bring things to the light? Would we be people of maturity who would take you at your word, who would be discipled by your word? Would your Holy Spirit be active in this fellowship? Would you raise the level of prayer within us, an appetite to want to pursue you in prayer? Would we be hungry to be in attendance, to see what you're going to do next? Would we be students of your word? Would you continue to bless us so we can point to you for all the glory? Would you give us testimonies to share of your marvelous works? Thank you for all the data and details we reported tonight, but thank you for making us a people who are devoted to you. It's all because of you, your faithfulness, your work, your grace, your mercy. So we depart tonight asking for your blessing, knowing we deserve it not, but giving you the glory, giving you the honor, and giving you the praise. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. And all God's people said, Amen. Good night.